Welcome to the Indie KidLit podcast. Join Marti Dumas and Elena Paige on their quest to help children's and middle grade authors find the right audience and sell more books.
And I'm Marti.
And we are interviewing amazing people on how to find your audience.
And sell more books.
In what area? Because I completely forgot to say it. In children's books and?
Middle grade. Oh, we're being a tag team today. It's so good.
We're doing the tag team. We gotta shake it up. Anyway, we need to annoy people with our intro. That's always my aim.
Right? I feel like that's like every podcaster's prerogative, is to be able to be at least a tiny bit annoying in the intro and apologize for it. I'm so sorry that I'm being annoying, but so that'll be us too. So we are today going to be talking with Tara, who is a very cool person, but before that, I just wanted to mention that we're not going to be doing our updates today because next week our show is going to be all about our goals and our updates. So we thought we would spare y'all this week and just keep it all together for the next time.
Perfect. So we have, we're lucky enough to secure an interview with, I know you say Tara.
We should let her say it her Gorgeous. Way and less Southern.
I say the Aussie. You say Tara, I say Tara. Potato, potato. I don't know. Tomato, tomato. Anyway, it is the wonderful Tara Lazar, who is a children's book author. She is traditionally published, so and we thought there was great use in that. So we're, as indies, we're trying to learn how to find our audience and sell more books. So we want to bring to you as many interesting guests that give you as many possible angles as possible. Because you just don't know sometimes where that one idea sparks or that one approach that you hadn't thought of comes from. Tara is the author of the well-known book, The Monster. If you haven't read it, you ought to. And other quirky, humorous books that feature magical places written for children and middle grade readers. So welcome to the show. How you prefer us to say your name? Is it Tara? I don't know if I could do it anyway, but say it.
It's Tara, and I found that people outside of the Northeast, the New Jersey, New York area don't really say Tara, and I tell them it's Tara, and they're like, yeah, Tara. And I'm
Tara.
Like, no, not Tara. It's Tara. Oh, you mean Tara?
Oh, I love it.
No, not Tara. Never mind. It's just
So we both got it wrong.
We're going to try our hardest.
No,
my Southern accent is not very heavy, but it's definitely catching it on your name.
I answer to anything, including "Hey you," so it's okay.
Hey you.
Anything.
Welcome. It's a joy to have you. So let's begin. Tell us a bit about your books and your journey to being published and any other tidbits that you want to add in.
Well, my journey began 40 years ago. I feel like an old hobo with a backpack slung over a stick or something.
Okay, so you're already hilarious, and I just have to, because not everybody is going to have the benefit of the video stream, and so you just have to tell everybody before you get too deep into this about your headgear, so that they can have an adequate picture.
I'm wearing Great Wolf Lodge. Oh no, am I plugging somewhere? Great Wolf Lodge ears. Wolf ears. Because we went to Great Wolf Lodge recently, and they were just sitting here on my desk, so I just put them on.
That's the best.
Great Wolf Lodge, which was very interesting because speaking of marketing, and I know you're interested in marketing, they have a regular story time when you go to Great Wolf Lodge. And if someone isn't familiar with the place, it's an indoor water park. So you basically spend the night, and with your hotel room, you get free passes for up to 5 or 6 people to go to the water park. So we do this every year around holiday time, and they have a regular story time. You come in your jammies to the lobby, and somebody tells a story. So I'm thinking to myself, hey, I'm going to be at Great Wolf Lodge. How cool would it be for an author, a real-life author, to read their own story while they're there? So I emailed them before we go, and I said, hi, this is who I am, Tara Lazar. I have books like The Monster, Little Red Gliding Hood. Actually, I thought Little Red Gliding Hood would be a perfect one that I could read to the kids during the holidays while I'm there. It would be a fun story time, and, just wanted to volunteer to read my book. And they came back with a message that's saying, we're sorry, but all the books that we read for story time are corporate sponsored and corporate pre-approved. And I'm like,
of course they are. Yeah, of course they are.
Oh. So I didn't get to read my book at Great Wolf Lodge.
Sad face.
And yeah, it was sad. I thought, it's a nice little marketing opportunity, but also an opportunity for me to have fun and read to the kids, which I always love doing because I do all kinds of voices and really get animated when I read. But they didn't want me. Because I'm not a Great Wolf Lodge pre-approved book.
Bummer.
So I'm wearing my Great Wolf Lodge ears anyway, even though I'm not so happy with them. But, maybe they'll hear this podcast and go, oh my God, what a grave error.
That's exactly what's going to happen. No, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Really see that. Here are free lifetime passes to Great Wolf Lodge.
Right, to everyone, to all of us.
For everybody listening.
Right.
I love it.
So tell your friends to listen. They could go to Great Wolf Lodge.
So you're Triad Publishing. How did you end up doing that?
A lot of hard work. I started writing back in 2007 with the intention of becoming published. I had been writing all my life, and I loved the bios that say so-and-so has been writing since she could pick up a crayon. Okay, yes, all right, fine. We've all been writing that long, but yeah, I have been writing that long. And but with the intention of becoming published, I started when my daughter was the daughter that kept on popping in and out of here during the podcast. Roll
during
into
the prep conversation, yeah,
the conversations that I had about whose house she's going to and when she's going and who's picking her up. And anyway, that daughter was 1, and I finally felt like I could leave her alone for a few hours in the evening. Not completely alone. Don't call Child Protective Services, with my husband. Leave her with my husband. Some people say daddy was babysitting, but no, you're not babysitting when you're the daddy.
Yeah, it just totally does not count as babysitting.
It doesn't work that way. But anyway, so I left her for a couple of hours to go to a critique group. It was a local group called Women Who Write. I didn't know about the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, SCBWI, which is the worst acronym in the world. Please change that acronym, people.
Great group. Terrible acronym. Yes.
Yeah, terrible acronym. It's too much to say. So in my household, we say squibby. Even though it's not phonetically correct, it just gets the job done quickly and easily. Mm-hmm. Hey, kids, I'm going to a squibby thing. Okay, bye, Mommy. So I went to Women Who Write, and I wasn't involved with squibby yet. And I found that was really helpful in the beginning to have this critique group. But the unfortunate thing was I started going to squibby events and nobody else was. So the critique group started to get like, let's have Tara teach this lesson. And it started to be where I was learning a lot and they were kind of not learning as much. So I left. I found my friend Corey Rosen Schwartz, who was a published author. We have mutual friends. We started hanging out and just networking online, meeting a lot of people online through my blog, through Facebook, through Corey, through Squibbie, learning as much as I can and kind of soaking it up, and above all, writing new manuscripts all the time until I hit upon one that Corey, who was my litmus test, said, this is it. This is going to get published. And you know what? She was right. That was the monster. And it did get published, landed me my agent. And that was six, almost 7 years ago. So I've just been churning out the hits ever since.
Terrific.
So that was a long story.
It's good, though. It's really helpful, particularly for me hearing the critique groups. Like, I'm a huge believer in critique groups, and a lot of times when newer authors, because I really am still a very new author, when newer authors than me come to me asking me about how do I get into writing, my first response is find a critique group, get some people near you who are willing to read your stuff and give you feedback on your stuff. So I'm glad to hear you say something similar. So that's very cool. When you're thinking about your experience in traditional publishing, what are the best parts of that for you? Or have you ever considered indie publishing anything?
I did not consider indie publishing because I wanted to focus on the creative part of the business, which is writing. And I knew that if I were to sell my own book, that it would be a tremendous amount of work that I didn't necessarily want to do. I knew that just submitting my book took an awful lot out of me, and it kind of split my brain in two. Whereas I have the creative half, which is writing the manuscripts and coming up with new ideas for stories, versus the part that's submitting, that's researching what is my book, what other book that's successful is my book like, what is it not like, who publishes the kinds of things that I write, what editor at what publisher likes the kind of things that I write. It's a lot of research just to submit. And when I was submitting, and it would take, a good month or two to really do the research and write the letters and do everything I needed to do to submit, I wasn't writing new work. I wasn't even in that creative mode. So I thought that to have an agent, number one, is great because they take care of submitting and you don't have to worry about it. And also the part where selling the book is so difficult, even with a traditional publisher. I just, for myself, couldn't imagine that segment of the work, having to do that all on my own. So kudos to everybody who does.
Yeah. So what part, what marketing role do you play versus the publisher? What do they do and what do you do?
Well, a lot of
that
times
would be useful to us as indies.
Well, a lot of times people say, well, traditional publishers don't do any marketing. And it's not true. They do a lot of marketing that you maybe do not see. Just the fact of putting your book in their catalog, sending out review copies, getting it to be reviewed in a Kirkus, a school library journal, the Horn Book, getting Junior Library Guild to consider it, going to, say, ALA meetings, going to midwinter, what is it called? And I'm losing it. But there's independent bookstores have a midwinter conference, and that is when publishers present their books that they really want the independent booksellers to be pushing that season. So there's all these things that they do behind the scenes that you don't necessarily see, and maybe people don't think of as traditional marketing. They're not maybe putting an advertisement in a magazine. Yeah. They're maybe not doing some kind of promotion with a movie theater like they did for Monstore with my book. But they're doing all these things that get the information about your book out there to the people who matter, the booksellers, the librarians. So people on the institutional side, maybe the wholesalers. So they do a lot in that respect that you can't necessarily get done on your own. You're not going to have the money to go to this midwinter conference. You're not going to have the money to go to an ALA event or BEA or what have you. So the publishers do a lot of that kind of stuff. And then the other stuff that's up to you is almost everything else. It really depends upon whether your publisher has pegged your title for being what they call a lead title, where they do pick a few books out of their list of that season that they're going to put extra marketing dollars behind and do something special for. And whether that's, printing out posters, maybe they make tote bags for you. Maybe they do some kind of bookmark for you. I mean, all that is extra, even though that seems very basic. That's something extra and something they'll typically reserve for a lead title. For the Monstore, it came out about the same time as the movies Monsters Incorporated, the second one, which was at Monsters University. And they did a promotion in a theater chain where before the movie was playing, there's things that pop up on the screen now. There was a promotion for my book, and you could win one of the books at the theater. So that was really cool, something I hadn't heard of a publisher doing before, but something they did for my book. Sterling Publishing, for my book, Normal Norman, they actually went out and had a Norman made, this big purple furry orangutan. And he went to BEA, he went to the London Book Fair, he went to the Bologna Book Fair, he went all over promoting the book. I didn't go, but he got to go. But I take care of online marketing for myself, social media, blogging. And that's a very big part of author marketing these days because it's something everyone can do, something that's inexpensive, and something that you could learn and create your own strategies for.
Yeah. So sometimes I'm terrible at summing up, but I want to give a stab at it because I'm like making my to-do list here, like as you go. So you should correct me on the things that I say in the summary. So it sounds like for you that that your publisher is handling obviously all the things that have to do with distribution and trying to get reviews and awards for your books, and then also focusing on book buyers and the kinds of things that get book buyers' attention, like giant stuffed versions of your main characters at conferences and things, and that you are handling the social media side of it. Are you able, is that about right?
Yeah, I handle the social media side. Also, there have been times where a publisher has asked me to work with a particular local bookstore. And I've done, bookstore signings. I've also, at the behest of bookstores, gone to schools and done school visits to support the release of a title. But I'm handling anything that's locally that I can get to and do. SCBWI events that I speak at, or do workshops for, or just this past weekend, I did a webinar for Inland Northwest SCBWI, which is all the way out, Washington, Oregon area out there. but I was in the comfort of my home doing a webinar. It was excellent.
Nice.
So those kinds of things I handle for myself. And, you know, they handle all that other stuff you mentioned.
So with the school visits, do school visits, are they mainly organized by the publisher, or do you like sometimes yourself, or is that part of your strategy, trying to get as many schools to invite you?
Well, you know, when I first had just one book out, I tried to get school visits and nobody was really interested.
Mm-hmm.
And plus it was very hard to get to the proper people. I feel like you have to become a little bit more well-known and have more than one book in order for schools to be interested in you. Especially my school had actually, my daughter's school had told me, well, we like to get authors that have a range of titles for different ages, because then we like one author visit for kindergarten as well as all the way up to 5th grade. And another school told me they like to get authors who have multiple books so that when they send an order form home for kids to get a signed book, there's a variety to choose from. There's just not like you got to get this one book or you get nothing kind of thing. So that's what schools have told me. And I've just found that over the last couple of years, as now I have 4 books that are now out and published, that now I get requests from schools, and I'm, you know, listed on some websites as doing school visit. I'm listed on my own website as doing school visits. I'm listed on SCBWI, Skype, when I do Skype sessions, and I offer a lot of Skype sessions, I also let them know I'm available to bring in live, not just over the computer. So that's going a little bit better now. I was just doing a lot of free school visits to start, and I think that's a great idea for building up your awareness in the area, getting local people talking about you, getting librarians, do some library visits. So librarians, when they're asked by schools, can you recommend somebody, they think of you to recommend. So now I'm getting a lot more recommendations and people coming to me directly to do school visits, where it wasn't in the past. It took a few years. I mean, it's been 2013 my first book came out, so now we're looking at 2017. So it's good 3-4 years before I started getting people coming to me instead of me trying to go out there and, you know, dig up some people. So it's a little bit easier now.
Yeah. And so initially were you doing free ones, but now some of the schools are paying? Like, is that how you're doing it?
There's paid visits now. They're actually paying me. Like, it's a job. It is a job. I mean,
what's
a lot of
kind of reasonable what's a reasonable amount to pay an author for? I mean, you know,
it really depends on your area. And your school system. So it's going to vary. It also depends on how many books you have out. I mean, whether or not you can ask for a little more. And, you know, sometimes schools will say, well, that's kind of expensive. And, you know, they have to remember you're not just paying for that school visit on that day. You know, there's a lot of preparation that goes on behind the scenes. You're doing a presentation. I know I do a custom presentation for each school. Like, I really get to know the school in the area, and I also do a contest for the kids who are going to be at the school that I'm going to see. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes. They're also paying for basically the years of expertise that you've built up and the years of books that you released. They're paying for your expertise, just like you would pay a plumber to come into your house. Well, you're not hiring a plumber who just started work last week. You're hiring a plumber who has been around a while and knows what to do, and you're paying for that expertise. And I think people have to remember that, when you're hiring an author to come into your school, you're paying for that expertise as well. Not with, how to fix the sink or the septic system, but the writing expertise and the reading and the publishing and everything that you talk about to kids.
Yeah. So I love that too. For me, this has been very, very helpful. So I find a lot of value in hearing from you that at first you started off being okay with doing unpaid visits, and now you've sort of reached critical mass and you're no longer doing those. And not only have you started to charge for them, but you also are at a stage where you're like, I am demanding what I'm worth. So this is
exactly.
Yeah. So
I'm not going to travel like 3 hours to go do a school visit and be paid $300. It's not worth my time. That, you're paying also for the fact that the school is taking me away from my writing time. So the time that I'm not writing, I still need to be paid somehow. And doing the free school visits is totally worth it. But you shouldn't do free school visits forever. Like, don't do that, because your time is worth money. Yeah. And it actually, frankly, makes it very difficult for other authors to go into a school and ask for money. If a bunch of authors are all going, I'm free, just bring me in.
Absolutely.
So, ask for what you think you are worth, what your time is worth, what's going to make it worth your while. Because not a lot of schools will order books. And a lot of people think, well, doesn't ordering books pay for the visit? And when you're traditionally published, not really, because your royalty is not great. So that if you sell 100 books, sure, that's fine, but that will pay for my lunch. It's just... So ask for what you're worth is basically my advice.
So you mentioned the prep that it takes for you to be able to go in and do a really good school visit. Can you give us a little window into that prep? What do you do when you're getting ready for a school visit?
Well, it depends. I ask what the school wants to see. I ask where the kids are in their writing lessons. Where are they in their reading? Like, what does the school want me to do? A lot of times they just basically want a day in the life kind of thing. They want to find out about me. They think I'm like Mick Jagger or something, and they want to know about, what I do. What kind of shirts do I wear? They want what kind of food do I eat? They want to know day in the life stuff. But some schools are interested in hearing about, how do you write a fractured fairy tale? Where do you begin? How do you end a story? We have lots of story prompts, but how do you end the story? What are some fun words? Sometimes I play word games with them. I have a lot of different programs. I put them all on my website, and I really talk to whomever is organizing the school visit and ask them what they want, and do something to meet their specific needs.
That is really cool, doing customized. I saw that on the menu options on your website for school visits to have what did you call it? A customundo?
Customundo. It's kind of like Fonzie. Didn't he say mundo everything?
He might have. I have a vague memory of that. So that sounds about right.
I'm showing my age.
Yeah. I love the font. So that's good. So how many...
Sorry, Marty. Go.
No, you go, Elena. This is a thing that we're going to end up having to say in like every podcast, I think, that we are on 2 different continents, on different sides of the world. So I'm in North America and Elena is in Australia, and there's like a quarter-second delay that sometimes makes us cut each other off in love.
My question was a frivolous one, but it was just what happens when you've exhausted all the schools? Meaning, like all your schools in your area, you visited them all? Does that ever happen?
No, you're never going to exhaust them. There are so many schools. There's just and I got a request the other day from a school in Pittsburgh, which not that close to me. It's going to be like a 6-hour drive or something. So I basically told them no. And I felt bad. I said, you know, there's got to be other authors closer to you that would probably not charge as much as I am going to charge, because I have to drive 6 hours and stay overnight twice. You know, you're going to have to pay for a hotel room for me 2 nights, because the night before and the night after, because I'm going to be too tired to drive 6 hours home. So you're just never going to exhaust them. I mean, my town alone is not a huge town, and we have 4 elementary schools. So just multiply that by, I know maybe in Australia you don't have any schools in the outback, but, you know, in America, I think there are enough schools, as long as Dan Gutman hasn't visited all of them and stolen them from you. No. Dan Gutman and I have a thing going where he's got, you know, like, a school has told me we're bringing you in, and then they're like, oh, you know, we're bringing in Dan Gutman. We'll bring you next year. This has happened more than once. So we just,
I mean, he does have good books. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's, you know, Miss Lazar is bizarre. So, I mean, I can't argue with that.
Miss Daisy's crazy. Those are good books. But yours are great as well. So. So when I was looking through your website, I'm sorry, Elena, do you have more about the school visits?
No, I'm done with schools. That's been really helpful. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tara.
I didn't want to, because, you know, the
Tara.
delay. Sometimes maybe we're about to say one more thing, and then I didn't see it, and was going to start an entirely new topic. So when I was taking a look at your website, I absolutely fell in love with the title of your blog, which is Writing for Kids While Raising Them, which just seems to be like a microcosm of life itself. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, like, when you started the blog, like what inspired you for it, like all of that jazz.
Well, before I had the children's literature blog, I had a mommy blog. Before mommy blogs were actually a thing. They're like a thing now. But I had a mommy blog, and I was doing that and kind of writing about my kids growing up, and also doing recipes because I love to cook. And I was doing that for a while. And then when I started the KidLit blog, I pretty much said, well, I have to let that other blog go, because it's just going to be too difficult to maintain 2 different ones. So that's why I put in Writing for Kids, parentheses, while raising them. Because I thought I'd kind of like borrow some stuff from my other blog, my mommy blog, and kind of slip it in there. But there was so much to talk about when it comes to children's literature that I kind of abandoned the mommy part. So there's not a lot about while raising them, but I still kept it as the title of the blog. And the funny thing is when you get to my blog and you see under my picture, there's that really short bio, and it says I'm a children's book author and a mother of 2 pushing a stroller along the path to publication. I gave up the stroller like 7 years ago now. So I really need to change that. But I love that line so much that it still exists. I have no children in strollers anymore, but that line still exists.
That's cool. I feel like you don't have to let that part of yourself go. Like, I feel like that becomes a part of who you are, the kind of struggle that, like, your identity ends up being built on. Maybe this is too deep for this, but I feel like you should keep it. That's all I'm saying. I feel like you should keep it in there.
I'm keeping it.
Now, you totally needed my approval on that, I'm sure. Like, yes, from Marti. So when I was looking through your blog, I noticed your Story Storm challenge. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Years ago, during a NaNoWriMo, which some of you may know is National Novel Writing Month in November, I was just like terribly jealous of all the people like tweeting and talking on Facebook and and saying, oh, I wrote 1,500 words today. And then somebody else chimes in and goes, I got 3,000 words in today. And everybody's talking about writing and discussing their craft and just having a grand old time. And I was feeling very left out. So I said to myself, gee, there's not anything for picture book writers. And so I thought about it and I said, well, writing one picture book in a month isn't much of a challenge. That's not a challenge. And writing one a day is insanity. That's too much of a challenge. So what can I do that's somewhere in between? And I came up with, well, picture books are really built on concept. So one concept a day would be a good idea. And came up with Picture Book Idea Month. And basically this year, after running that for 7 years, I decided November is a terrible month for this. Well, I decided that long ago. November was a terrible month because of Thanksgiving and the start of the holiday season here in America. So I said, you know, it'd be much better if we did this challenge in January, because that's the beginning of the year when everybody's making New Year's resolutions. And it's also much better if, you know, we call it something different, because it was called PIBO IDMO for short. And which is just
That's awesome.
Picture Book Idea Month, because I patterned it after National Novel Writing Month. So I called it, you know, PIBO IDMO, and no one knew how to say it. And nobody could say it. And it was just the most awful, awful name. I said, I got to give this a new name, something different. And in that 7, 8 year period that I had Picture Book Idea Month, other people came out with their own months. So everybody and their brother had a mo of some sort. Like there's Rhyming Month, there's Rhymo, there's Research Month, there's Remo, there's this mo, there's that mo. And like everybody decided to have a mo of their own, and there were too many mo's. You know, it's like that. It's like that song, I went to school with 27 Jennifers. Which is
I do not know that song, but now I feel like I'm definitely going to look up that song. I went to school with 27 Jennifers. Yeah. But let me interrupt you a little bit in there. So I was wondering, when I was taking a look at that, I always think of the blog as a place for people to try to find their audience. And I'm interested because there seem to be two camps of writers. There are writers who seem to blog for other writers, and then there are writers who seem to blog for readers or other audience. And I'm wondering how you made the decision about who your audience was for your blog, and how you think it's affecting your marketing, essentially, because that's kind of where our lens is coming from over here at the Indie KidLit podcast.
I did not think about it, which is a mistake.
Okay.
Definite mistake, because if
we can also learn from mistakes. So tell us about it anyway.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily write a blog to target other writers, because they're not your prime audience. They are an audience, but they are a subset of your audience. What you really want to do is you really want to capture the attention of the librarians, the teachers, the parents, the grandparents. And especially for picture books, it's really hard to reach the picture book age kids, because they're probably not surfing the internet on their own.
Hopefully, we can just only hope. Yeah.
But you want to reach those gatekeepers. So I began writing for writers because it wasn't something you thought about back then. I mean, my blog is now like 8, 9 years old. It just wasn't something I thought about. It was just something that I did. Just like I named Story Storm PIBO IDMO to begin with. I didn't think about
That's funny. It's funny. Story Storm is maybe easier to pronounce, but
it's much easier to pronounce, and I think it gives you an indication of what it's about, whereas PIBO IDMO is like, honey, you going in the bathroom? What are you doing? Peeboing this, that thing. So, I mean, if I were to start a blog today, I would think about it much differently with my audience in mind. So I'm just, don't do as I do as I say.
Okay. Well, can we do this exercise really quickly? Let's say you were starting a new blog over today. What kinds of things would you put on it now that you're not doing on your current blog?
I do something that's like All the Wonders, which is a blog that is together with, there's an illustrator, there's a writer, there's a librarian, there's, a group of people who are invested in children's literature in one way or another. And they are posting things like, here are the 16 best multicultural books of 2016. Okay. Here is a video from this author. Here is, it's stuff that the readers, that the consumers of books are going to be interested. It's add-on content. It's complementary content to a book. It's telling people about new books. It's very different. I would do something like along those lines as opposed to what I'm doing now. But what I'm doing now has already built up such a great audience that I ain't gonna stop. Part of my idea with Story Storm was to open it up to student writers, like teachers and their classes, and not just other professional writers, but amateurs and kids. And that was one way that I could kind of broaden the scope and broaden my audience for my blog.
Has that worked? Have you had a lot of uptake from teachers?
I have had
having
some
their
teachers,
kids submit?
Some teachers. There's nothing to submit when you're doing Story Storm. It's just basically you register and you sign up and say, hey, I'm doing it. And then when it's done, you say, hey, I did it. It's all on the honor system. So I don't have any good stats upon how many teachers and their students are doing it. But I know distinctly of at least, maybe 2 hands worth of teachers who are trying it with their students. And hopefully, as the word gets out, it took me many years to work up to a couple of thousand participants that I have. So it's going to take me a little while to build up the teachers and students audience as well. So I'm not concerned that there's not that many. I will get the word out in coming years.
Absolutely. So I love slow build and long-term strategies. So I'm excited about the things that you're saying here. How long do you think it would, how long do you, when you're saying, okay, I'm totally fine not having it be now, which I think a lot, obviously every indie is an individual person. And that's the whole point of being an indie author, is that you get to be your individual self. When I'm hanging out with other indie writers, I sometimes hear frustration about people wanting to grow their lists and grow their audiences as fast as they can. I'm like raced having 10,000 people on your list and that kind of thing. So it's interesting to hear the other side. How long do you think you would take to be able to get it where you feel like, okay, now this is about what and what with the existing audience that I'm already working with? Like, how long would you feel comfortable waiting to build that?
I just think building an audience is something that goes on forever. Like, I'm in this for the long haul. Like, this is my career for the rest of my life. I even told my husband, I was like, I'm not retiring. I'm having too much fun. I mean, this is what I wanted to do my whole life, and I'm doing it. So I don't put any, numbers on anything for myself. Because I'm just doing what I do and I'm going to keep on doing it. So there's not like a real goal, like I want to have 5,000 students doing this. Like, no, I don't think in those terms. I'm like, I want to have a career. So it's going to build over time, and something will signal to me that it's successful. I don't something. But I don't really think in those terms of putting numbers and on stuff, because first of all, I don't like numbers. Okay, I just don't like them. They don't like me. I don't like them.
I'll like them for you. It's good.
So I just do what I do, and like you said before, we had the official interview, and we had our pre-interview. I'm very much a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. I'm a pantser, and we pants people kind of do things, and you know, if they don't work out, they don't work out, and if they do, great. And that's kind of my goal.
That's really good. It sounds to me like the idea of like, well, if I don't hit that goal anyway, what would I do? Quit? So obviously the answer to that is no. So then the other side of that is just keep plugging, keep growing, and seeing how that goes organically. Very cool.
Well, we've almost run out of time, ladies. We could talk forever. But before we say goodbye to you, I've got a random question, as I generally do, because I'm a pantser too. What really strikes me about you, and being I'm a new author, like, I've only been doing it for a couple of years, and really professionally only for one. And so one of the things that I'm still in the process of doing is partially finding my voice, my brand, my style. Like what do people think of when they think Elena Paige? Right now, probably not much, but one of the things that stands out to me about you is like one of the review I know you're all about, you're the funny lady. You like funny, quirky, smart. I want to read one of your books. I sort of know what I'm going to get, kind of, like there's a really strong branding. And so my question is, how does someone like me eventually get to that? Do I just try different things until I eventually land on who I really am? Or am I already a something, but I just haven't seen it yet? Do I ask my friends? Do I help me?
Well, you are a something, Elena. You are a something.
Definitely. I can attest to that.
I don't know that I'm doing anything necessarily special or something that I'm even consciously thinking about. I'm just being myself.
Right.
And that's
so all those after school specials were right?
I'm just being myself.
That's good. Yes. That's good to know, because I saw a lot of them, so it's good that works out.
And so I'm just doing what I do and doing stuff that I enjoy. So it kind of, I guess, shines through as, this is Tara, this is what you're getting. Because there's no pretense, there's no real thought behind it. There's just, loud, obnoxious Tara, and that's what you have to deal with. I just really enjoy all the things that I'm doing, whether it is blogging and doing Story Storm, because, it's so interesting to me. If you just look at today's post, where I had Professor Adam Grant from the Wharton School of Business on the blog today, talking about original thinkers and the unique characteristics, unusual, unexpected things that people who are wildly successful do. I mean, all that, learning about that stuff is so interesting to me. So this is all just who I am and what I would be doing anyway. I feel like this is it. This is what you're getting. I'm kind of hard on my sleeve kind of person. Here I am. Love me.
That's awesome.
And we do. That's great.
That's brilliant. So where can people find you online?
TaraLazar.com. There's an A between every consonant. TaraLazar. I mean, yeah. So
that's a pretty good pattern. That's good.
I mean, so just look up Tara Lazar and you will find me. Google me, search me, and you're just going to find me. I am not the Tara Lazar who owns restaurants in Palm Beach, California. Right. Just so we make a distinction here. Yeah. It was terrible. Her father died not too long ago, and her father was a famous attorney in the entertainment business. And so I got an email from somebody at the London Times, and the email said, "On the passing of your father." And I'm like, holy crap, my father died and nobody called me. But it was her father, and I was like so angry because, it just takes like 2 more seconds of Googling to figure out that there's 2 of us, and one's a children's book author and one's a restaurateur. So I'm not that other Tara Lazar.
Yeah. Now we've got the heads up. We won't get it confused. And also, we'll make sure that we put it in the show notes just so that people will like extra doubly not be confused about that.
But her restaurants look really good. So, if you go to one of her restaurants, please send her my regards.
We will. From the other Tara. All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. You have been so much fun. I hope that we're able to convince you to come hang out with us again in the future.
Oh, I just put the ticket to Australia in the mail, and I'll be right over.
Done. I'm waiting for Elena to send me my ticket to Australia. I'm standing ahead of you in that line. But
let's do a live podcast from Australia with the
kangaroos. Oh, that sounds great.
The kangaroos jumping in the background.
Can you bring that up? Is that a thing?
And the shrimp on the Barbie, and I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Gold Coast. I'm there.
It is summer here now, so it's a good time of year. So it's awesome. So I think that's a wrap. And if people, of course, want to see any of the show notes, where are we, Marti? Where can people find us?
We're at www.indiekidlitpodcast.com.
Fantastic. Thanks again. And now we've got to finish the show. Pronounce the name right.
Trying to pronounce Tara
Lazar. Tara Lazar. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds. I like it with your accent better, but I can't do an Aussie accent. I've been watching too much Downton Abbey.
I was going to say, you're sounding like a Brit.
I've been watching Downton Abbey, so, I sound like a Crawley.
We have interviewed some Brits, so we're completely going to start blending our accents, aren't we?
No one's going to know where anyone is from. It'll be a global podcast. I guess it already.
KidLit podcast, the global phenomenon. There you go.
Yeah. And we'll see if we can ever tempt you to cross the line and come to the dark side and become an indie with perhaps one of your titles in the future. Then you could be a hybrid author.
A hybrid
author. Do you know, I hear that title and I'm so jealous. I'm like, oh my God, they're like the coolest, the hybrid authors.
It's like we do everything.
They're like the Sweet Surrender rose. That's a hybrid rose, and it smells really good. It's unbelievably pretty.
Multicultural.
Hybrid roses. They're like the hybrid rose of podcasts.
All right, we're going to leave it there.
You can quote me on that. The hybrid rose of podcasts. Okay.
All right. So we'll
take care. Thanks again.
Yeah. Until next time.
Welcome.